The first time I met him, I thought I was hallucinating or maybe I'd finally lost my mind under the Nevada sun. But when his hand brushed mine, and electricity shot through my veins like wildfire, I realized insanity might actually feel like love. I was 19, broke, and stuck in a small town where dreams went to die. My life was simple. Fixing cars by day, drinking cheap beer by night, pretending I didn't care that my father barely looked at me since he found out I was gay. I'd convinced myself that numbness was easier than honesty until the night the sky cracked open. It was mid-July, the kind of night when the desert air vibrates with heat and silence. I'd driven out past the edge of town just to get away from the noise, the judgment, the endless routine. I parked near a dry riverbed and climbed onto the hood of my truck. I remember looking up, feeling that old ache of wanting something bigger than my life. And then the stars fell. At first, I thought it was a meteor shower, beautiful, distant, harmless. But then one of them changed direction. It didn't burn out like the others. It kept coming closer, brighter, until it ripped across the sky and crashed behind the hills with a thunder that shook the ground. My first thought wasn't fear. It was curiosity. I grabbed a flashlight, jumped off my truck, and ran. The air smelled like ozone and ash. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it over the wind. When I reached the ridge, I saw it, a crater glowing blue, like molten glass. And standing in the middle of it, him. He looked human, almost, but the air around him shimmered, distorting the night. His skin had a faint glow, his eyes an unnatural silver that reflected the starlight. He was tall, graceful, and terrified, the kind of fear that makes your body tremble even when you're trying to stay calm. His clothes were torn, dark liquid, not quite blood, dripping from a wound on his shoulder. And then he spoke. Not with words, not exactly. I felt his voice inside my head. Help me. I stumbled backward, dropping my flashlight. My heart froze. What the hell, who are you? He blinked, confusion flashing across his perfect, alien face. You understand me? His voice was fragile, like he was tasting each sound for the first time. Apparently, I stammered. You're real. He took one step toward me, and that's when it happened. A surge of light exploded between us, wrapping around my wrist and his. It was like being struck by lightning and embraced at the same time. My body convulsed, my vision blurred, and for a second, I saw him, not just his face but his memories. Stars collapsing, planets burning, a desperate escape through black voids. Loneliness so deep it felt infinite. When I woke up, he was kneeling beside me, his hand hovering over my chest, his expression terrified and tender. You're alive, he whispered. The bond. It worked. The what now? I groaned, sitting up. The bond, he said, pressing a glowing hand to his heart. You saved me. We're connected now. I didn't understand a damn thing. All I knew was that my pulse was syncing with his, literally. I could feel his heartbeat, even when I looked away. And for some reason, it didn't scare me. It felt right. His name was Kale. At least, that's how it translated in my mind. He came from a world called Erythra, a place of oceans that shone like rubies and skies that never turned dark. His people, the Seraph, were explorers, not conquerors, he said. But someone had attacked their ship, forcing him to crash land on Earth. He told me he couldn't survive long without forming a life bond, a sort of psychic tether that stabilized his energy. Apparently, when I pulled him out of the crater, I triggered it. Lucky me. So, let me get this straight, I said, pacing beside the crater. You're saying we're bonded? Like, permanently? He looked at me with those silver eyes, earnest and almost shy. Until death. Oh great, marriage to an alien. My dad's gonna love this. Kale tilted his head. Is that bad? I laughed, a wild, disbelieving laugh that echoed across the desert. You have no idea. For the next few days, I kept him hidden in an old trailer behind the auto shop where I worked. He learned English fast, scarily fast. He asked endless questions about everything. Why humans lied, why we hated, why we built walls instead of bridges. He watched me fix engines, fascinated by the noise and grease. Sometimes, when I wasn't looking, He'd touch random objects, a wrench, a radio, and they'd hum faintly, as if reacting to his energy. And I couldn't help noticing the way he looked at me. Not with pity, not with curiosity, but like I was something precious. No one had ever looked at me that way before. One evening, as I was changing the oil on a customer's car, he crouched beside me, eyes following my every move. "Why do you hurt yourself?" he asked suddenly. I frowned. "What are you talking about?" "You act like you don't care," he said softly. "But your heart does. I can feel it through the bond." I froze, a wrench slipping from my hand. "You can feel that?" He nodded. "You feel small, invisible, but you're not." It was like he reached inside me and pulled out every secret I'd buried. I hated that it made me want to cry. I hated that I wanted to lean closer. That night, as we sat on the trailer steps, the stars stretching endlessly above us, Cale reached out and touched my hand. His skin was warm, pulsing faintly beneath my fingers. The connection between us flared again, a rhythm, a heartbeat that wasn't mine. "I think," he said quietly, "this is what humans call love." I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because even if it was, I knew how it would end. People in this town already hated me for being different. What would they do if they found out I was in love with something not even human? But Cale, he didn't seem to care. When he smiled, it was like he believed the universe itself could bend for us. The next week was chaos. Military helicopters started circling the area, searching for the meteor. News spread fast. Everyone had their theories: a crash, a weapon test, aliens. I tried to keep Cale hidden, but his energy was growing unstable. The bond was making me sick too: headaches, fevers, strange flashes of light in my vision. He told me it was because our worlds were too different, that we were both burning at the edges. "I can't stay here," he said one night, voice trembling. "If they find me, they'll destroy everything, including you." "You think I care?" I snapped. "You showed up, tied our souls together, and now you want to bail?" "It wasn't supposed to happen," he whispered. "You weren't supposed to save me." "Yeah, well, I did." I took a shaky breath. "And now you're part of my life. Deal with it." He looked at me for a long time, his expression breaking into something raw and beautiful. "Then I will never leave you," he said. "Even if the stars call me home." The words should have scared me. Instead, they felt like a promise. That night, I dreamed of stars falling again, but this time, they didn't crash. They danced. The morning after Cale made that promise, the world felt different, quieter, heavier, like the air itself was holding its breath. I could still feel him in my head, faintly, like a heartbeat that wasn't mine but lived there anyway. Every emotion he felt rippled through me. Wonder, confusion, and a kind of aching sadness that had no words. He sat cross-legged on the trailer floor, surrounded by pieces of scrap metal and old circuit boards I'd given him. Somehow, he was building something out of it, something that hummed with faint, alien energy. "What is that?" I asked, setting down 2 mugs of coffee, one of which he probably couldn't even taste. "A translator beacon," he said, eyes glowing faintly silver in the morning light. "It can mask my signal. Hide us. For a while." He said us, and my stomach twisted, not from fear, but from something warmer, something I didn't want to admit. "You're saying the military's actually tracking you?" He nodded, gaze dropping to his hands. "They detected the crash. The energy signature from the bandits. Unusual here. Your world isn't ready to understand it." I laughed dryly. "Yeah, tell me about it. My town still can't handle interracial dating." Cale looked up, puzzled. "You humans make walls out of everything." "Yeah," I sighed, sipping my coffee. "That's what we do best." He tilted his head, studying me like I was the one from another world. "You don't belong here either." His words hit harder than I expected. For a moment, the truth of it burned in my chest. I'd spent my whole life pretending I didn't care, that I was an outsider, that people whispered when I walked into a bar, that my father flinched when someone mentioned my name. And now, here was this being from across the universe, looking at me like he saw me better than anyone ever had. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Maybe not, I said softly. But this is all I've got. Kale smiled faintly. Then I will protect it. I didn't realize how much that promise would cost him. By noon, the air outside was humming, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. I was under a car at the shop when I heard the news on the radio. Authorities are investigating reports of unidentified debris found near Route 9. Residents are advised to stay indoors. I didn't wait for the rest. I bolted for the trailer. Kale was standing by the window, his skin faintly glowing blue. They're close, he said quietly. I can feel their scanners. How close? Within hours. Panic surged through me. Then we need to go. Now. He hesitated, looking at the half-built beacon. It's not finished. Kale, if I don't complete it, they'll find me. And if they find me, they'll find you. Something in his tone made my stomach twist. I grabbed his arm. We'll finish it on the road. I've got tools, fuel. He turned toward me, eyes full of light and sorrow. Eli, he said softly, this planet is toxic to me. Every hour it weakens me. The bond keeps me alive, but it also ties you to my decay. What are you saying? If I stay too long, you'll die too. For a moment the world tilted. I stared at him, my chest tightening with disbelief. You're lying. I can't lie, he whispered. Not to you. I wanted to yell, to curse him, to tell him to leave. But instead, I just said, then we'll find a way. We'll fix it. Kale's lips parted, and for a heartbeat, I saw hope flicker there, fragile and human. You really believe that? I do. He smiled, and something inside me shattered and mended all at once. We left that night. The road stretched ahead of us, endless and dark, the truck's headlights cutting through the desert like blades. Kale sat beside me, his head leaning against the window, watching the stars. He looked more human than ever in that moment, tired, quiet, his glow dimming slightly. I caught myself staring at him longer than I should have. You okay? I asked. I don't understand why you help me, he said, voice soft. Your species fears what it doesn't know. Maybe, I said, but I know what it feels like to be hated for what you are. That's enough. He turned his head, eyes meeting mine. For a second, the hum of the engine faded, and all I could hear was the rhythm of our breathing in sync, like the bond itself was holding us together. He reached out, fingers brushing mine. Electricity sparked again, faint but real. This feeling, he whispered, when your pulse meets mine, does it scare you? Sometimes, I said truthfully, but it also makes me feel alive. Kale smiled, slow, aching, beautiful. Then maybe we're both learning what living means. By dawn, we reached a rundown gas station near the Arizona border. The neon lights flickered weakly as I parked. Kale slumped against the seat, eyes half closed, his skin pale and fading. Hey, I said gently, stay with me. He blinked slowly. The bond, it's weakening. I need starlight, direct energy. Sunlight works. He hesitated. No, your sun burns too hot. I need the stars. Night. I looked around helplessly. There was nothing but sand and sky. Rest, I said finally. I'll figure something out. He gave a weak nod, and I pulled a blanket over him. As he slept, faint light pulsed beneath his skin, a heartbeat out of rhythm. I stepped outside, leaning against the truck, trying not to fall apart. That's when I saw the distant glint of something metallic on the horizon. Binoculars. Someone was watching us. I cursed under my breath and ran back inside. Kale, we have to move. He stirred, disoriented. Now? Yes, now. I grabbed the keys, but before I could start the engine, a voice crackled from a loudspeaker outside. Step out of the vehicle with your hands up. My blood ran cold. Kale's eyes flashed open, fear flooding through the bond. Eli, no. If they take me, they won't. Before I could say anything else, the door burst open, and a group of men in black tactical gear stormed in, rifles raised. Hands where we can see them, one shouted. I threw my hands up, stepping in front of Kale. "He's not dangerous. Move aside." I said he's not dangerous. The next second was chaos. A gun went off, a single, sharp sound that split the air. Kale's body jerked. For a moment, time stopped. His silver eyes widened in shock, then dimmed. He collapsed into my arms, glowing blood staining my hands. "No!" I screamed, clutching him. "Don't you dare leave me!" Light exploded from his chest, blinding white, surging through me like a wave of fire. The soldiers stumbled back, shielding their eyes. When the light faded, he was still breathing barely. His wounds were closing, but his skin was dimming, fading to ash gray. He looked up at me weakly. "You protected me." I couldn't speak. My throat was raw with tears. He reached up, brushing my cheek with trembling fingers. "Eli, I told you. I would never leave you." Then his eyes fluttered shut. The soldiers tried to approach, but the air around us pulsed with light again, pushing them back. My body was shaking, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would break through my ribs. And then silence. Hours later, I woke in a small motel room. My head was pounding. Kale was gone. For a second, I thought it had all been a dream. But then I saw the faint burn mark on my wrist, the mark of the bond, still glowing softly. He was alive. Somewhere. I could feel him. I stumbled outside, the early morning air sharp in my lungs. The sky was a pale blue, and in the distance, a trail of light streaked upward like a shooting star leaving Earth behind. I fell to my knees, watching it disappear. For the first time, I understood what it meant to love someone you couldn't keep. But as the mark on my wrist pulsed once, faint and warm, I knew one thing for sure. Kale hadn't left. Not really. For weeks after Kale vanished, I wandered through my own life like a ghost. The government sealed off the desert. The news called it a containment operation, and everyone went back to pretending the world still made sense. But it didn't. Not for me. The bond never broke. I could still feel him, a faint, steady pulse somewhere deep inside me, like a heartbeat echoing from 1,000 miles away. Sometimes, when I closed my eyes, I saw flashes. Starlight, red oceans, a silver horizon, and always his voice. Eli. It wasn't words. It was a whisper of emotion, a warmth that refused to fade. I tried to move on. I tried to pretend he was gone. But every night I'd drive out past the last gas station, park in the same spot we met, and stare at the sky until dawn. I told myself I was waiting for nothing. But deep down, I was waiting for him. 3 months later, the nightmares started. Flashes of light, screams. Kale's voice calling my name, filled with pain. I'd wake drenched in sweat, gasping for air, the bond burning like fire beneath my skin. Something was wrong. I could feel it. And then one night I felt fear. Not mine, his. I grabbed my keys and drove. I didn't even know where I was going, just followed the pull in my chest, the invisible thread that tied us. The road blurred beneath me, stars spinning overhead. Hours later, I reached the edge of the desert. The same crater where we met was still there, quiet, abandoned, half swallowed by sand. I stepped out of the truck, heart pounding. "Kale!" I shouted into the empty night. Nothing, only the wind. And then, a sound soft, mechanical, almost like breathing. I turned. The air shimmered, light flickered, and there he was. He wasn't the same. His glow was dimmer, his eyes shadowed by exhaustion. But it was him, Kale, standing in the sand like a fallen star that found its way home. For a moment, I couldn't move. I just stared, afraid that if I blinked, he'd vanish again. He smiled, small, trembling, heartbreakingly human. "I told you," he whispered. "I would never leave you." I stumbled forward, closing the distance between us in 2 shaking steps. "You how? I thought you were gone." "I was," he said softly. "But the bond, it called me back." When he reached out, our hands touched, and the bond flared to life, brighter, deeper than ever before. For the first time in months, the world made sense again. But behind his smile, I saw something dark. "What's wrong?" I asked. He hesitated, They found me. My people. They want to take me home. That's good, right? His gaze dropped. Not for you. I frowned. What do you mean? They don't understand the bond. They think you're a contamination that I've been corrupted by human emotion. I laughed bitterly. They're not wrong. Kale's lips curved into the faintest smile. No, they're not. For a long moment, we just stood there, our fingers intertwined, the desert silent around us. The air smelled like rain and dust and memory. Then the sky cracked open. A blinding beam of light split the horizon, a ship descending, vast and silent, its shape unlike anything human. My heart clenched. They're here. Kale nodded slowly. If I go with them, they'll erase the bond. For your safety, they said. I shook my head. No, you can't. It's the only way they'll let you live, he said, voice breaking. They know about you, Eli. They've been watching. Then let them, I shouted. I don't care. I'd rather die than forget you. He stepped closer, cupping my face in his glowing hands. You won't die, he whispered. You'll live. You'll dream. You'll remember me even if you don't know why. No, I whispered, shaking. Don't you dare. Kale's eyes shimmered, full of light and sorrow. The bond was never meant to exist between our kinds. But it gave me something my people don't understand. What's that? I breathed. He smiled a smile that broke my heart in half. Love. The light from the ship grew stronger, swallowing the desert in silver. Sand lifted in spirals around us. Kale's body was already starting to dissolve into it. I grabbed him, desperate. Stay. Please, stay with me. He pressed his forehead to mine, his voice trembling. You gave me a reason to come back to life. Now let me give you a reason to keep living yours. The light consumed everything. For a moment, all I could see was him, his eyes, his smile, his warmth. And then he was gone. Just gone. The desert went silent again. The ship vanished into the stars, leaving only wind and the faint glow on my wrist, the mark pulsing one last time before fading into nothing. I fell to my knees, the weight of the emptiness crushing me. I screamed his name into the dark until my voice broke, until there was nothing left inside me but the echo of him. Days blurred into weeks. Life went on somehow. I left town, sold the truck, moved east, took jobs fixing things no one else wanted to touch. Every time I held a broken machine, I thought of Kale, of how he saw beauty in the things humans threw away. And some nights, when the sky was clear, I'd look up and see a faint streak of silver light. I'd tell myself it was him, watching, waiting. But the world has a cruel sense of humor. One morning, I woke to the sound of static. My radio, an old thing that hadn't worked in months, was humming. I frowned, tapped the dial. Then, through the noise, a voice whispered, Eli. I froze. The voice was faint, distant, but it was his. Kale? I whispered, trembling. I found a way, the voice said, breaking up with bursts of static. Our bond still exists across the void. The stars remember. Tears filled my eyes. Where are you? Far, he said softly. But not gone. Never gone. The connection flickered, fading fast. I pressed the radio close to my chest, desperate. Kale, please. You taught me love, he whispered. Now live it. Every day. For both of us. And then silence. The radio went dead. But the mark on my wrist, the one that had faded, began to glow again. Just once, faintly. A heartbeat. And in that moment, I knew he was still out there. Years passed. The world changed. So did I. People forgot about the incident in the desert. But I never did. I became something else, someone stronger, quieter, maybe even wiser. I fixed engines, traveled from town to town, helped strangers, listened to stories. It was my way of staying connected to the universe he came from. And every now and then, when the night was still and the stars burned bright, I'd feel that same warmth pulse through me, the echo of Kale's love, infinite and unbroken. They say love dies when distance grows too wide. But love that begins in the stars never dies. One night, years later, I found myself back in Nevada. The same desert, the same endless sky. I parked my new truck on the ridge, climbed onto the hood, and stared up. The wind whispered through the sand, carrying a scent that wasn't of this world, metallic and sweet. Then, from the horizon, a light appeared. First, I thought it was a shooting star, but then it stopped, hovered, moved closer. My breath caught. It descended slowly, bathing the desert in blue light. And then, through the glow, a figure emerged, tall, radiant, familiar. Kale. He looked different, stronger, older, more human somehow, but it was him. The same eyes, the same warmth. I stood frozen as he approached, his steps silent on the sand. "Eli," he said, voice trembling with wonder. "You waited." I laughed through tears. "You came back." "I told you," he whispered, his hand finding mine. "I would never leave you." The bond reignited, a burst of light and emotion that filled the world. It wasn't painful this time. It was peace. Pure, endless peace. He pulled me into his arms, and for the first time in years, everything felt whole again. We stood there under the starlight, two silhouettes against eternity, proof that love, no matter how impossible, finds its way home. And as the night wrapped around us, Cale pressed his forehead to mine and whispered, "Home isn't where you come from. It's who you belong to." I smiled. Then I'm finally home. The stars burned brighter that night, as if the universe itself was smiling. Somewhere between two worlds, two hearts beat as one, not human, not alien, but something in between. Something eternal. Love. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.